Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. Recently, this is a personal belief. I think that people should be talking far more about this kind of stuff, but a lot of people, I think it's just not that exciting to them. What usually gets a lot of people going within the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin's price. So on a daily basis, you will hear, you will see, you will read online, on Twitter, depending on where you get your crypto news from. A lot of people tend to only care about Bitcoin's price. If it's going up, if it's going down, logically. It is a metric to follow to see if Bitcoin is doing well. One of the things that I like to look to, maybe it's because, I don't know, I love news about retirement portfolios. A number of years ago, we got news that there were a number of companies who were looking to get into the cryptocurrency space by having allocations of Bitcoin in their portfolios. This is interesting because if you've ever contributed to or have money in a retirement account, if you actually look through the account and the things that they're holding, they tend to be very stable, or even like a lot of like longevity-based companies and or institutions. So you buy these things as a retirement company or a retirement account to make sure that this thing will continue producing income, funds, grow, have money for people who are buying it in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s so that they can actually retire from it. It's a very simple idea. You as a retirement company would not buy something or have in the fund that you think was not going to perform well for your customers, because if it did not, people would not use your fund or your product anymore. They would simply go somewhere else. So a lot of times when we've heard constantly that there are companies, institutions, and funds and hedge funds who are getting into Bitcoin, buying up Bitcoin because they see the long-term prospect of it, it's something amazing. But the word retirement is in there, so it doesn't like razzle and dazzle to a lot of people as much as it maybe should. Recently in the news, and this was completely missed over as well, which I think is a little bit weird, completely breezed by nearly everyone, was BlackRock was in the news, and they were talking about themselves as a company and what they've been doing with Bitcoin. So it's not even just the idea of having the ETFs. It was more of a what Bitcoin is going to do for BlackRock in the future. And I think potentially when people see news like this, I'm not sure if there's a disconnect because they go, well, I'm not BlackRock and therefore it will do nothing for me. I don't care what the company's doing. For me, it becomes when companies talk publicly like this, especially out loud about Bitcoin, and it has nothing to do with negativity, as we've seen before in the past, there's always been, well, Bitcoin's for criminals, Bitcoin's for this, no one uses Bitcoin, Bitcoin's, and like to see them now talking about how amazing Bitcoin is, how awesome Bitcoin is, how much money they can make from Bitcoin, it stands out to me because once again, if you miss one of the other videos, these companies don't get into these investment vehicles because they're planning on being in it for 6-7 months and then they disappear. The way that like wealth is built and money is grown, it's by buying articles, assets, and holding on to them. This is how you see generational wealth built. It's just a logical factor. The value of things continues to go up as they become more scarce. Not a lot of people can have them, and that's the way that it kind of goes. So when I first heard about these companies getting into the space, of course, it made like my mind go, I was going to say ring-a-ling-a-ling, but it made like, it made a lot of sense to me that they were getting into Bitcoin because they see the value prospect of it and that Bitcoin was going to be around for a very long time. It meant nothing to a lot of other people who didn't get the same notes. They simply saw that mega company get into Bitcoin and the price doesn't move, that kind of thing. Recently, one of the chief investment officers of fixed income, very bougie title, for BlackRock spoke to the Wall Street Journal. And he was talking about their actual confidence in Bitcoin. I'm sure the question has come up multiple times. You guys are into Bitcoin. You have Bitcoin ETFs. What are you thinking about Bitcoin? Like, what's the long-term goal for all of you? He actually said, and I'm glad that he said it as well, because sometimes, especially the company that owns the world, they might not be too like open and honest with a lot of people. But I think we've gone well beyond that point where like the cat's out of the bag. Like we know exactly what's going on with you and Bitcoin. He said that BlackRock is actually looking into themselves allocating more of their funds to actually buying Bitcoin and having more Bitcoin in a number of their other investment portfolios. So what we've seen thus far is that BlackRock only has the Bitcoin ETF that they have. But this means that they're going to, because they have other funds, they're a gigantic company. They're going to start either allocating extra money into buying Bitcoin for the actual company, or start using extra money to buy from their own ETF and start allocating that to a number of other funds as well. If the idea is that, for those of you who've been missing it, a lot of the analysts are predicting that over the course of the next couple of years, sounds crazy, but they believe that we are going to have $1 million Bitcoin. So if you can have an asset that is currently 60 something, $70,000, depending on where it is at this moment, and you can allocate that into multiple funds, and that fund just from the Bitcoin alone might do a 15x in price over the course of the next decade. This is a really big thing that you should also be putting your money into it as well. He noted, and I always like these little notes, he said it'll take time to see as other investors get more comfortable with it. We've lived in a world where for about a good 13 or so years, these, not BlackRock in particular, wink, a lot of companies have made sure to tell people how awful and terrible, it just did that cutoff thing again. They've made sure to tell people how terrible and awful Bitcoin is, how terrible crypto is, and you shouldn't get into the space. And is why for a long time it took so long to actually get a Bitcoin ETF, because we heard from a lot of institutional rich investors, they don't want to get into the space for something that's for criminals. So now this narrative change has happened quite quick, where we are hearing good news from BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan Chase. I'm not sure if you've seen the videos of these millionaires and billionaires around the world who are now coming out of their hedgehog holes, I don't know, to talk about how nice Bitcoin is as well. And we see the allocation beginning to happen, but it's more of a, they're waiting to see if the ramp up is going to happen. And I think we're going to continue to get, obviously, a lot more good news about this as Bitcoin's halving happens and the price continues to rise. For those of you who don't know, it sounds logical, but the idea is that the $100,000 Bitcoin is kind of like the gigantic barrier that everyone's waiting for. The major barrier in front of us is 100K, and then after that, it's $1 million. The idea of a $100,000 Bitcoin becomes this, I wish I had put money into this market before kind of thing. And this is when everyone kind of throws themselves at the market, but dragging it on back. I find it very interesting that the people from BlackRock are now talking openly on Wall Street, on the Wall Street Journal, and also on CNBC, talking about how much money is going into the market, that they're also thinking of allocating it more to their funds as well. The number that we don't have and probably will never have, let's be honest, is exactly how much Bitcoin that BlackRock owns as well. That was a discussion sometime last year when we heard that BlackRock was actively in the market before the ETFs. I was like, you know that they're buying Bitcoin themselves, right? There's no way, there's a 0% chance that this multi-trillion-dollar company isn't trying to get Bitcoin ETFs, taking a huge leap, and that they don't have any Bitcoin for themselves. And then you also have to think logically, they're BlackRock, and they don't have just one Bitcoin. They have probably hundreds, if not thousands, and we'll never get the actual number because I think it would send people into a frenzy. And that's what you don't want is BlackRock, because you want the price to remain relatively low so that you can also continue buying for yourself as well. So yeah, the news is that BlackRock is considering allocating extra money for themselves to acquire more Bitcoin, and also to allocate more Bitcoin into a number of their other funds as well, which, I mean, I assume because of all the news that we've been getting in the last couple of months, Bitcoin is probably going to continue to do well for the next couple of decades, if we can be completely honest with ourselves. Yeah, that's the BlackRock is definitely going to be buying more Bitcoin news. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be on this weird planet. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.